Welcome to the Phoenix Podcast, where we discuss mental health in the Black community. Tune in for weekly episodes with your hosts, John and Chris. All right.
Here
All
we
right.
are.
3, 2. Well, all right. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, John.
All right. So, what are we doing here?
First of all, this is like a dream come true. I mean, here we are. It's our first podcast, Phoenix Podcast. And what we're doing is trying to put a little light at the end of the tunnel. 2020 was a very dark year for very many people. Usually in life you have ups and downs. Last year was mostly downs. A lot of people had a terrible time. In fact, some of them are still recovering even now. There was a general air of gloom and doom. A lot of people lost jobs. A lot of people lost hope. And in life, that's why you have got, so many crackpot pastors, et cetera, et cetera. The most precious commodity that you can sell to a human being is hope. Because hope gives you the juice necessary to look forward to another day. A lot of hope was lost last year. A lot of people say, oh, well, the year started going down after the death of Kobe Bryant. Yeah, that's true. But there was many other things that happened. It had so much promise. And then, of course, everything came to a standstill with Corona, COVID-19. I think that 2020 proved something to the whole entire globe, the world in general, was that we were not in any way, form, manner, or mode. How advanced your economy, your technology, your science, the medical advancements in your country, ready for something like COVID-19.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. 2020 was a very trying year globally. It's something that we couldn't have anticipated. It's something that it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. You would have thought that we would have learned from the
Bubonic plague?
the bubonic plague. The sad thing is,
Yeah.
history is it's all there at our fingertips. Just a couple of keyboard clicks, you could find out all these things, but we choose ignorance. And certain governments who we thought were on top of things proved to be the complete opposite.
Of course. Still are, by the way.
Still, sad. It's sad to say, but that's
That's
just
what I mean.
the- yeah, it's
USA!
Right. And that brings us now to the main subject of this podcast, this episode. It's basically we're going to talk about mental health.
Yeah.
Whether it's pre-COVID, during, and ultimately post-COVID. Also, we're going to focus on our community, the melanated community. I don't like to say black community because noir. Because we're not black, so we're melanated. And we're going to talk about our community, how we're deeply affected by mental issues. And that's attributed to the fact that we're a people that's essentially despised all over the world. It doesn't really matter where you are, whether you're in China or in America or even in Nairobi.
Even in Africa.
Even in Africa, right, at large. There's a certain level of disdain that we have for ourselves. Some of the people who look exactly like us, they'd rather listen to somebody who looks completely different with a different mindset. But then because you look the same, your opinions are less valuable. And that's attributed to the fact that we've been brainwashed. We are.
Oh, yes.
And I think I like to say we're not actually suffering from PTSD. We're suffering from TSD.
Which is?
Traumatic stress disorder. Or CTSD, continuous
Traumatic
stress disorder
Yeah.
because we're still suffering.
Yes.
And I think it's high time that we acknowledge that, mental health is something that we have to embrace. We have to talk about it, and we have to basically, especially for us men, we're taught to be, the alpha.
You don't cry.
Boys don't cry.
Don't show tears.
That whole thing.
Emotion.
Exactly. So I think it's high time that we have a serious and an open conversation about, what, especially, that we'll start with ourselves, you and I, and we'll talk about our mental state, and then see how we can, in turn, embrace, have the community embrace,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
The mental health,
Yes.
issues, and then move forward from that. Because without that, we're just going to be stuck in a rut, and we'll always have a certain level of self-hate.
Yeah.
So, what do you think?
I think that that's very true. I think from a perspective of mental health, especially coming from this part of the world, like in Nairobi, they say that everybody's insane. It's just the levels of difference, because if you look at the way people behave, even on a normal basis, something is wrong with society. Overlapping, what is coming at you from the wrong direction, kleptomaniac leadership or leadership, as I like to call them, leaders and politicians.
Right.
How you can just steal, unimaginable amounts of money from the public, from things like the health sector, the education sector. How do you live with yourself? But we have dulled our conscience as a society. We have learned to accept right as wrong, and that in itself, the inability to differentiate right from wrong is actually what is called insanity.
Absolutely.
And that's what we are.
Yeah.
We're an insane society.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because we are a strong people. We've been subjected to the most heinous type of crimes imaginable.
Yes.
Whether it was in the Congo, whether it was in America or the Caribbean or wherever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We suffered, but we still here. We still prevailed. But why is it so hard for us to now take the reins and then say, you know what, we're just going to ignore all external influences like Singapore did, like China did in South Korea, and say focus on developing our people. Because, again, a strong nation is only as strong as its people. It doesn't have anything to do with natural resources or anything, or the mightiest military force.
Yes.
It's all about the people. So without the people, and the people starts with a positive mental attitude and a healthy mindset, and also another thing that we don't actually value is character building. Because you may have the strongest army in the world, but without character, right, you are in trouble. And an interesting fact, the Great Wall of China, right? When they built the wall, it was to protect themselves, to insulate themselves, right? But guess what happened? They were invaded 3 times. The only way the external forces were able to invade is because they bribed the guards.
Exactly.
And now until they realized that without character building, right, at every level, there's always going to be a kink in
in the armor.
In the armor, a chink in the armor.
Oh!
Right? Ooh. Well, hey, listen.
Not like that.
Right.
Not like that. No. To all our Chinese listeners, no, it's not like that. It's a chink in the armor. It's a slight.
That's right. No pun intended.
Exactly.
All right. So, so it's a valuable lesson to learn to build character, and if our African leaders were
of character.
Exactly. Africa would be in a much better place, right? Because Africa would be able to dictate what happens on the world stage, not always being dictated to.
Now, here's the thing. We have had a stolen history. in terms of the fact that a lot of Africans today don't know their history. If you go back into history, you will find that some of the most advanced civilizations were in Africa. There's a chap by the name of Ibn Battuta, Arab historian. I think he visited the kingdom of Benin. And they had something like a civil service. They had drainage. They had a road system.
Right.
They had an education system. One of the oldest universities in history in Africa is in Al-Azhar, which is in Egypt. Of course, Timbuktu is legendary as well.
The Great Library of Timbuktu.
Exactly. And you'll find that the way that history has been taught, especially because it's a westernized education system, is that it has always been from their perspective. Okay? And that has been for a particular reason, is to make you forget who you are, where you're from. People, I think now the richest person in the world now is Elon Musk, who ironically is from South Africa.
Yep.
There was a time the richest man in the world was somebody called Mansa Musa.
That's right.
I mean, this dude was balling.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
There's historical accounts of him, like, going from one place to the other and giving out gold bars and,
Absolutely.
some crazy.
I used to travel with an armada of 250 ships.
This dude was seriously balling, okay? You couldn't touch the guy, okay? Now, if you ask the average African about average Kenyan, even, the average African, about Mansa Musa, going to be like, Mansa what?
Mansa who? They have no idea. I mean, this is where the colonizers have succeeded tremendously. They have succeeded.
Oh, like discovering America?
Right, exactly. Right?
It wasn't there before. Huh?
Columbus, come on now.
Oh, yeah. I have just discovered a place where there are humans before me, but I have just... Really?
Oh, man. So, all that to actually segue into our mental state, where for me, I've never been personally diagnosed with any sort of mental disorder, but I do believe at some point in my life I have suffered, whether it's depression, whether it's any sort of like manic disorder. I have suffered. And I don't think I've ever openly talked about it, but I think to have an open and honest discussion that we have to put all our cards on the table.
Yes.
And to the point where, for me, it stems from growing up in an environment where you're always the minority. You're always the guy that doesn't belong. You're always the guy who has to prove yourself until basically you're deemed guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah.
Right. So what that does to somebody's psyche, it puts you in a situation where you now start to believe that, well, maybe all these things they're saying, maybe it's actually true. Because now you find yourself in situations where you watch the 6 o'clock news or the 10 o'clock news, there's pictures of us splattered all over the screen, armed robbery, drugs, this and that, But I've never been arrested. I've never, been into trouble with the law, right? But you look at these things, you're like, you know what? There's something inherently wrong with us, but then you internalize it. But if you're not a strong character, then you start actually living inside your mind,
Exactly.
in your head constantly, and thinking, am I worthy? Should I go there? Or if I go there, how will I be received? How will I be perceived?
Yeah.
And you start now censoring yourself. You start being in situations where, okay, let's say I want to go skiing. Well, I'm not going to go because I'm going to get, people are going to look at me funny because I'm not supposed to be there.
Because of your melanin.
Exactly. Where I've learned early on to break down these barriers as well. Although I've been in situations where, things are said. They call you the N-word. Go back to Africa.
Yeah.
Right? Well, okay, yeah.
And here you are.
Here I am. And
You took the good advice.
definitely. And at the end of the day, you can't blame them. I don't really blame other races for being, protective of their themselves, or It's about survival. And what that does is if we're not responsible for our own survival, no one's going to be responsible for our own survival. So, let them handle their situations the way they so choose. Now, it's up to us now to say, you know what? Let us be protective of our own people as well. Let's trade with each other. Let's comfort each other. Let's talk together. Let's resolve these issues within ourselves. Nobody from the outside is going to resolve our own issues. So now we have to be open and talk about, especially us men. We have to be able to have open discussions and say, you know what, this is what's happening. We have to be able to talk about it because when you talk about it, it lifts a burden.
It does.
And then it allows you to move forward because otherwise you're going to be stuck in a rut and you won't be able to move forward.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about your journey as a creative, because we're both creative. As a creative,
And
right?
that's exactly why you go into deep, dark places.
That's
When
right.
you're not creative, when you're not creating, because your mind is constantly coming up with ideas and designs and concepts, and it's something. That's why you look at people like Vincent van Gogh, cutting off his ear.
That's right.
To send it to the woman that he loved. I mean, who does that?
Yeah.
You know.
He was a tortured soul, and then we find us. I mean, we're not to that extreme.
No. I'm not
But
cutting
it's-
off my ear. Mm-mm.
No, sir. No, sir.
Yeah. But I'll tell you something that's very interesting. You coming from your part of the world, and me coming from my part of the world. One thing I never understood until I actually got to live in your part of the world is that a lot of the mental situation attributed to that community stems from the fact that people actually don't know where they're from. For us, we know where Shags is.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like everybody knows where they come from.
Right.
Now imagine
For those of you who don't know what shags means, it's,
the rural areas.
yeah, there you go. Hometown.
Hometown. I can't even begin to imagine what it's like to have a history of almost 200 years of not knowing where you're from. That's got to do something to you psychologically.
Absolutely.
It's got to really mess you up. And like in my case, I come from a family background which is also very interesting because my dad is from here. He incidentally is from Kenya, and my mom is also from here, but she's half Scottish, half Kikuyu Maasai.
Okay.
So like with me, in my case, you and me, same melanin pigmentation. My sister who follows me is what they call a 0.5.
Right.
Okay, or half caste.
Right.
Okay, my brother who follows her is also a 0.5.
Right.
Or half caste. So my first experiences with race issues was like when I was a kid, when we're all kids,
Right.
and we'd go shopping, and I'd go with them, and we get the counter, and at the counter, the gentleman or the lady at the counter would say, "Hello, little boy. Hello, little girl. Jumbo." Because what
Wow.
the drivers come shopping or something.
Right,
Whatever.
Because of
they
your complexion,
assumed-
they automatically assume
Exactly.
that
They
you're
automatically
not part of the
assume
family.
Exactly. And until people actually get to know me and my family, people are always like, "Is that your real sister? Is that your real brother?" And it's something, I've gotten used to it through the ages. In
Right.
fact, we really laughed about it with my brother, Nick.
Right.
Because I remember Nick wanted to join a certain military situation at some point in time in his life.
Right.
And he came to me and said, Chris, these guys, man, they're so racist. They have things against black guys. I was like, and your point is?
Well, welcome to my world, brother.
And it was like, really? That's just low, But yeah, there's something to be said about your melanin content.
Yeah,
It does things to you. It does things to you in certain places.
absolutely.
And even among ourselves, the darker you are, there's a discrimination level of some kind.
True.
here's the interesting thing. The darker you are as an African woman, the more attractive you are to a Caucasian man.
That is true.
Go figure.
Yeah, that is true. Psychologically, I don't know the reason behind that, but I guess there's a certain level of mysticism. There's a certain level of opposites attract. So also, I tend to be a little leery of these sort of unions whereby a lot of it is
exploring
fetishism. Right.
However,
exactly. There's a certain fetishism attached to the Caucasian males, attracted to a darker hue.
But it
female.
cuts both ways, because if you're in the NBA,
right,
or a successful rapper of the melanin persuasion,
that is true.
You look the other way.
That's true.
You look towards Heidi.
Yeah.
Ashley.
That's right. Becky.
Yeah, not Shaquanda and Lafifi.
That is so true. I guess you desire. It's sort of like a status symbol,
yeah.
Right. But I think at the end of the day, again, it's to go back to a point you brought up. I mean, where we don't know our history.
Exactly.
It's not actually 200 years. It's been 400 years as of 2019.
Yeah.
It has been 400 years where our history has been systematically eroded, and that was by design. That was actually divide and conquer. So in essence, when they captured some of our forefathers, our ancestors, they would break them up. If you and I, intentionally. If you and I were cousins, we were captured. You'd probably be sent to Brazil, and I'm sent to America, or I'm sent to somewhere in the Caribbean, or wherever.
It was designed intentionally.
It was by design because you wouldn't be able to pass down the knowledge.
Yeah.
But to tell you the truth, it's nothing. I mean, our situation in America was not unique. Go back to Genghis Khan. Go back to Napoleon. Go back to King Leopold. Go back to all these guys. The order of the day, once you conquer a nation, right, is to basically assimilate the able-bodied men into the army. You were given a choice. You either join us or you get the chop, right? Women, okay, they basically impregnate them. Now they basically change the bloodline.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
If there were any sort of like monument destroyed,
yes.
The literature destroyed, and even again, France is these guys. Let me tell you something.
Assimilation.
So you had to learn.
Those guys are good.
Yeah.
Those guys are good
Yeah.
because unlike the British, what they did was they literally turned you into black Frenchmen.
That's right.
And women.
Yeah.
And made you feel that you were part of the society.
Yeah. But you were not at the end of the day.
Yeah, you were not. However, these guys were good because, like, I think there are certain countries whereby if you were like a member of parliament in that African country under the French colonization,
Right.
you were like a member of the lower house,
Right.
in Paris or something. So you felt loyalty to.
You felt important.
To tonton. Yeah, the people actually they call it uncle.
That's
know,
right,
till
yeah.
today they're like that's uncle. Whereby the British were like, no, you can't do that. You're black and you work for us and fuck you. They were like, basically, we're training you to be servants and civil servants, and in fact, come and join the army. No, not even come and get into the army. That kind of thing. Whereas Africans are very interesting because people don't understand what it's like to have a mind that's been colonized. I have nothing against Christianity. I have nothing against any kind of religion.
Right.
But I always tell people something. You people, you've been taught that polygamy is wrong and all that kind of thing, and what our forefathers were doing before the coming of the European. And did you not notice that when the European came to do their thing and preach, etc., yeah, and tell you that you with the 5 wives, what you're doing is wrong, and you should be monogamous and whatever it is, they had left their wives.
That's right.
In Scotland,
Yeah.
and in England. Shortly after their arrival, was when we first started seeing the first colored children.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
They
how
practice what you preach.
how did this happen?
Practice what you preach, and they were not doing that.
Exactly.
And for them, again, let's give an old reference. Was good for the goose,
It's good for the gander.
gander. But for them, it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
We're the masters.
Yeah, exactly,
Okay, we're
yeah.
not equal. So you do as I say.
Yes.
Don't do as I do.
Exactly.
And that's I think it's for some reason that mindset is still very well woven into the fabric of melanated society.
It is.
And African society.
It is.
Where religion that was brought to the masses by the colonizers, they don't even follow these doctrines. They don't even follow these principles. But yet, we are the ones who are so religious. We die by it. We live by it, and we cannot be told otherwise. And again, that might also be attributed to our mental state, because anybody with strong mental fortitude, you will ask questions. You will not take anything. I know blind faith, right? Blind faith is a thing, but at the same time, even a child knows how to ask questions.
Yes.
Mommy, why is this?
Exactly.
Daddy, why is X, Y, Z?
And again, why?
Exactly. Why?
Why?
And then this, somehow we lose that.
Yeah.
We lose that. And then once it, if it pertains to religion, that common sense, that inquisitive mind sort of like disappears, and we kind of like blindly, we put the blinders on, and we just keep basically on the same track. We say, you know what, this is what it is. We're not going to question it, and this is what it is. Meanwhile, we're suffering. Okay, we're suffering because in the hope that, don't worry, you'll suffer here, but then in the afterlife, you'll go to heaven. God will take care of you. Yeah. Meanwhile, they're enjoying themselves here. They're traveling the world.
I must have a private jet so that I can go and preach the word of God instantaneously.
Exactly.
Really.
Exactly. So now, when it comes to the men of the cloth. Do you think they, at some level, they suffer a greater deal of mental illness, or do they actually know what they're doing to their own people?
Con men usually know what they're doing.